All right, now that you have your figure accessorized and animating, and you got the groom hair going on, you got some morph targets, the next logical step is, okay, well, you know what would be great is if we could render this, and so we're going to take that next step. What we're going to do is animate our figure along a spline with whatever animation you want to use. So we're going to set up a spline. We're going to set up the code to make our figure follow that spline. And then what you can do is set up an environment or surrounding around that, and then have that figure walk through that environment, render that out. And that's exactly what I envision here. So that's what we'll be doing next. All right, to start off with, we're going to need to create a spline. So right-click, Blueprint Class, Actor, and then we're going to call this Spline Path BP for Blueprint. Okay, let's open this up, and let's come over here to Components, click on Add, and we are going to add a spline. All right, and then you're going to see there's our spline. So go ahead and compile and save, and we are done with that. So the rest of what we're going to be doing is on our actor or pawn, however you have your character set up, you're going to want to enter that, open it, and you're going to be getting into the event graph. Okay? So let's do a right click and do an event, begin, play. And so this will be the start of it. So we're going to be kind of calling for our spline at this point. So we're going to come out of here, get actor of class, and we're going to be looking for our spline blueprint that we just made. And then we're going to right-click this, promote to variable, and we're going to name this spline reference. Okay, and that takes care of our kind of our spline code right there. So we're going to start the next half of this code. So we're going to right click, create a custom event. And we're going to call this move object. Keeping totally simple terms going on here. Now what we're going to do is create a variable. So come down here to variables, click on this plus sign, and we're going to call this time to complete. And if you want, you can put that this is in seconds. All right, this is going to be a float. And just for the heck of it, we'll make this instance editable. So we need to compile now after we've created this time to complete. And if you click on it, after you've compiled it, you actually have an entry here that you can make. And this will be for how long it's taking your figure to walk through whatever loop that you create from this. Okay, so this will actually be your timing mechanism right here. So I'm just going to put in arbitrarily a number. Doesn't really even matter what number it is because we're going to be changing it. And so now we're going to grab this time to complete and drag it onto the stage. We're going to get time to complete. And then from here, we're going to actually put in a divide float. and we'll attach this to right here. We'll type in 1 at this point. Okay, and this is going to be the starting of our kind of like our timing mechanism. And how this will work is that we are going to, our timing is 1, and it's going to be divided by 15. So again, as we adjust this, it's going to be 1 divided by this amount, and that'll be the amount of seconds that it takes for our figure to go ahead and go through that loop process. All right, so what we need to do now is kind of create a timeline. So we're going to right click, add timeline, and this will be our move object timeline. So we'll compile. Then we're going to come down here to our components. We're going to drag out our timeline, get move object timeline, and from here we're going to set play rate. All right, so we'll take this execute, come into here. This one's going to go into our timeline. Let's keep everything nice and tidy here. Now let's open up our timeline, and we want to set the length to 1. We want loop on, and we're going to create a new float track, and we'll name this move track. We're going to right click on this line, add a key, and we're going to change that to 0. So our value at this point is 0, 0. We're going to add another key, and this one is going to be 1, 1. And so now we have a linear timeline happening here. Our interpolation is linear. You could make it float if you want. You just grab both of those and right click and make it user. I'm going to keep mine just linear. And then at this point we are done here, so we can go ahead and close that. Okay, so now we have our timeline, which is going to be the value of where we're going on our spline. Now we want to use this value to find out the location of where the spline is. So let's drag, close up our components here. Let's drag a spline reference out, get spline, and then we'll come out of here with the get spline. That's going to be all the way at the bottom. Then we're going to come out of here and get spline length. Now this right here is going to allow us to change our spline length, and it will always be dynamically correct for whatever length of time that we choose. So we're going to come out of the return value, and we're going to do a lerp, linear interpolate, a float. We want this return value actually to go into B. We're going to disconnect A. So this is like a numerical timeline. So A is our start of the timeline, B is our end of the timeline, and alpha is going to be where we are on the timeline. Okay? So what we're going to do is grab this move track and plug it into there. Let's go ahead and just kind of move this forward, make it more tidy. So that takes care of the timeline. Now out of here is going to be where we are on the spline, our location. So let's come out of here and let's do a set actor transform. So under new transform, right click and split struct pin. What that's going to do is give us access to transform location, transform rotation, and transform scale. We won't be messing with scale, but we'll go ahead and take advantage of our location and our rotation. So what we need to do is get our distance into a value for our location over here. Okay, so let's grab our spline. Let's drag it up here and get spline. Drag it out. We'll get spline again. Drag out from here. So get location at distance along spline. So let's make a little more room. Okay, so now at this point, this is going to be under world. We're going to go ahead and hook this right into here, and then that gives us our location along this spline. Let's go ahead and do this one more time, and let's get rotation at distance along spline. And we're going to drag that into the rotation. And then what we'll be doing is taking our lerp, which is looking for those values. We're going to go here, and we're going to go down here. Okay, so one last thing that we need to do is up in here for our spline, when we bring it out, what we want to do is we want to call our original move object custom event. Okay, and then that's it. That is our graph right there, okay? All right, so when we move our object, it's going to set our play rate, and in X amount of seconds, it's going to take our figure to go through this timeline on the spline, which is constantly interpolating our location and our rotation along the spline, and it's being set to our actor, okay? So this is all set, so let's go ahead and do a compile and a save. Now we come back in here to our main viewport. And let's go ahead and get our spline and just drag it out, okay? And what you're going to want to do is click on this point right here. And what you can do is just drag forward and hold down, left click Alt, or just hold down Alt and left click forward again. And those are setting new points for you. And just drag that to the end, okay? And then what you can do is all these points are movable. So if you wanted to alter your path a little bit, you certainly can. I'm doing just a small alteration, but you can make these as large as you want. So what you're going to do now is now grab your actor and bring it into the area of play. Let's get in here a little bit more. And just press play. All right. You can see we almost got it going on. What we need to do is select our mesh and come over here to rotation and do a -90, compile. Now let's play again. All right, now we have our animation happening. That's looking good. It's following the path. Excellent. All right. We're almost there. Now what we have to do is just adjust the timing. So come back in here, select our time to complete, compile. Now you're just looking at the feet, trying to make sure that they're not shifting on you and that they're kind of staying put when they plant themselves. And that's that looks like a nice walk to me. I don't see a whole lot of shifting going on. It's tough to get this exactly correct, so it's going to be a challenge, I understand. But now you have your figure walking towards you. And you can just imagine your camera zooming or panning along with the figure. Now, that's pretty cool, right? Now all you have to do is create an environment, grab the spline, grab your figure, pop it in there, put your camera on a rig, and have it walk through the environment.